You're about to tour all 50 states. And no, not with a plane ticket, but with your attention span. People argue online every day about which state is the best, but almost nobody actually understands what makes each one unique. The money, the culture, the hidden opportunities, the reasons people are quietly moving in or running out. Some states are economic powerhouses, some are underrated gems, and some are beautiful, but brutally expensive. In this video, we're going to speed run the entire map, 50 states, 2 minutes each, breaking down what really defines them: cost of living, jobs, lifestyle, weird laws, wild history, and the kind of would I actually live there? Honesty your social feeds don't give you. No sugarcoating, no boring textbook vibe, and just straight talk with a bit of sarcasm and a lot of curiosity. If you're new here, welcome to Virtual Finance Navigator, where we decode money, places, and choices that shape your life. If you've ever wondered, am I living in the right state? Or where should I go next? Stay with me till the end. Hit subscribe, tap like, turn on notification, and let's start this 50-state tour. 1. Alabama. Sweet tea, tough history, real grit. Alabama is where front porch culture meets quiet economic power. It's known for college football, sweet tea, and civil rights history, but there's more going on under the hood. Major employers in aerospace, automotive, and manufacturing keep the state's economy humming, while many towns still feel small, familiar, and personal. Life here moves a bit slower, but bills can hit fast if you don't plan. Cost of living is relatively low, especially for housing and food, but incomes can also lag behind national averages. That's the trade-off. Your money stretches further, but there may be fewer high-paying opportunities compared with big coastal states. Culturally, Alabama is rich. Music, food, festivals, and family ties that go generations deep. It's the kind of place where people know your name, your parents, and probably your business too. For someone thinking about lifestyle versus hustle, Alabama raises a good question. Would you rather grind in an expensive city or live bigger in a cheaper one with more space, less traffic, and a tighter community? 2. Alaska. Extreme beauty, extreme costs. Alaska is the place your screensaver wishes it was. Glaciers, mountains, endless sky. It feels like another planet in the best way, and sometimes in the worst. Long winters and dark days aren't just a mood issue. They affect everything from heating bills to mental health and supply chains. Groceries, fuel, and basic goods often cost more because so much has to be shipped in. On the flip side, there's no state income tax, and some residents receive oil revenue dividends. That sounds great until you realize the extra cash can vanish quickly into high living expenses. Economically, Alaska is built on natural resources: oil, fishing, mining, tourism. Jobs can be seasonal or location-dependent, which makes long-term stability a planning challenge. But for the right person, someone who loves independence, adventure, and doesn't mind paying extra for that remote lifestyle, Alaska is a wild, rewarding deal. It's less follow the script and more write your own. 3. Arizona. Sunshine, snowbirds, and surging growth. Arizona is where people go to escape winter and sometimes end up staying for life. With its desert landscapes, booming metros like Phoenix, and a strong retirement presence, Arizona blends sun-soaked relaxation with serious economic growth. Housing used to be famously cheap, but prices have climbed as more people move in. Still, compared to some coastal states, Arizona can feel like a discount version of warm weather living. Energy bills spike in summer thanks to the heat, but mild winters help balance it out. Arizona's economy leans on tech, manufacturing, tourism, and real estate. That brings opportunity, but also competition and rising costs. For retirees and remote workers, it's attractive. Plenty of sunshine, golf, and outdoor activities. For younger workers, it's a chance to get in on a growing job market without paying California prices. Just be prepared. The sun is free, but staying cool isn't. 4. Arkansas. Quietly affordable, quietly underrated. Arkansas doesn't shout for attention, but your bank account might quietly thank you if you live there. It's one of those places where housing, groceries, and basic living costs tend to sit comfortably below the national average. You don't need millionaire money to afford a decent house, a yard, and a slow Saturday. Economically, Arkansas is a mix of agriculture, retail, and manufacturing, with some big corporate players headquartered there. That combination creates jobs, but not always at big cities' salary levels. The upside? Less pressure to keep up with flashy lifestyles and more room for modest but meaningful wealth building. Outdoor lovers get mountains, rivers, lakes, and hiking without tourist level congestion. Socially, it's more small town and community driven, where people value familiarity and long term relationships. Arkansas is the kind of state that asks, very politely, what if contentment, not status, is the real flex? 5. California, dreams, drama, and high cost living. California is the main character of American pop culture: tech, movies, beaches, dreamers. It's also the poster child for beautiful but expensive. Housing prices in major metros can make even high earners feel broke. Rent, property taxes, gas, and everyday living costs often run ahead of the national average. But the trade-off is opportunity. Tech, entertainment, startups, biotech, and agriculture all collide here. If you're chasing a big career, a creative path, or a startup dream, California can feel like the place where anything is possible, as long as your budget survives the plot twist. For many people, living in California becomes a constant negotiation between lifestyle and financial reality. Do you downsize, move inland, or head to a cheaper state? California forces the money conversation early. How much are you willing to pay for weather, opportunity, and the feeling of living in a movie? 6. Colorado, mountain views, growing price tags. Colorado is what happens when outdoor adventure and city growth collide. You get Denver's urban energy, Boulder's tech and wellness vibe, and mountain towns that look like postcards. It's wildly attractive and increasingly expensive. Housing costs have climbed steadily, especially near major job centers. Wages in tech, healthcare, and professional services help, but not everyone is in those fields. Young professionals come for the lifestyle: skiing, hiking, breweries, and sunshine. Retirees arrive for the scenery and calmer pace. Both groups quickly learn that beauty comes with a monthly subscription. On the plus side, Colorado's economy is diverse and innovative, offering solid job prospects and entrepreneurship potential. The state leans active, educated, and environmentally conscious. The real question is whether your budget can keep up with your outdoor bucket list. In Colorado, the view is free, everything around it, not so much. 7. Connecticut, quiet, polished, and pricey. Connecticut feels like the calm, well-dressed cousin in the Northeast family. Tree-lined suburbs, historic towns, and commuter routes into New York and Boston define much of the state. It's polished, orderly, and financially demanding. Property taxes and housing costs can weigh heavily, especially in desirable suburbs. Many residents earn strong incomes, but so do their bills. Mortgages, insurance, and education costs all add up. It's a classic case of good income, high outflow. On the positive side, Connecticut often scores well on education, healthcare access, and safety. It's attractive for families who value stability and structure. But it's not the place to coast financially. If you're strategic, living slightly outside the hottest zip codes, managing housing costs, and planning long-term, Connecticut can support a solid, comfortable life. Just don't confuse quiet streets with cheap living. 8. Delaware, small state, big advantages. Delaware is tiny on the map but surprisingly influential. It's famous for its business-friendly laws. Many corporations are legally based there even if they never see the Delaware River. For regular people, the perks can be real: no state sales tax and competitive property taxes. Cost of living is moderate compared to nearby states like New Jersey or Maryland. If you work in a neighboring state but live in Delaware, your paycheck may breathe a little easier. Housing can still be pricey in certain areas, especially near beaches or commuter corridors, but overall it's more manageable than many East Coast hotspots. Lifestyle-wise, Delaware mixes small cities, beaches, and suburban comfort. It's not the flashiest state, but it quietly checks a lot of boxes. Reasonable costs, decent job access, and a strategic location. It's the financial life hack state people forget to talk about. 9. Florida, sun, seniors, and no state income tax. Florida is where people go to escape winter, taxes, or both. No state income tax is a huge draw for retirees, remote workers, and entrepreneurs. Sunshine, beaches, and theme parks don't hurt either, but cheap is relative. Some areas, especially coastal or tourist hotspots, have high housing and insurance costs, especially homeowners insurance thanks to hurricanes. Groceries and services also creep up in price in popular metros. The key is location. Inland or smaller cities can be dramatically more affordable. Economically, Florida is driven by tourism, services, real estate, and a growing population. It's buzzing with opportunity, but also vulnerable to climate risk and seasonal swings. For many people, Florida offers a sense of freedom, financially and lifestyle-wise, as long as you choose your zip code with your head, not just your sunglasses. 10. Georgia, growing, busy, and opportunity-rich. Georgia is on a roll. Atlanta has become a major hub for film, tech, and business, bringing jobs, traffic, and rising home prices. But step outside the core and you still find relatively affordable towns and suburbs where your money goes much further. The state sits at an interesting crossroads, southern charm mixed with big city ambition. Cost of living is generally moderate, especially compared to coastal giants. Housing, food, and transportation can be reasonable if you're not chasing the trendiest neighborhoods. Georgia's economy is diverse. Logistics, film, agriculture, tech, and higher education all play a role. For strivers, it's a place where you can build a career, buy a home, and still afford Sunday brunch. For families, it offers community and opportunity. The main thing to manage? Lifestyle creep. With so much happening, it's easy for your spending to grow as fast as the city skyline. 11. Hawaii, paradise with a price tag. Hawaii is the screensaver of your dreams and the budget spreadsheet of your nightmares. The scenery is stunning, the culture rich, and the pace of life slower and more intentional. But nearly everything costs more: housing, groceries, gas, utilities. Island life means supply chains, and supply chains mean markups. Many people juggle multiple jobs or side hustles just to afford a modest lifestyle. Wages don't always keep pace with costs, especially outside specialized fields like healthcare or tourism management. Owning a home can feel out of reach for many residents, even while vacationers treat the islands like temporary paradise. That said, life in Hawaii can be deeply fulfilling for those who value community, nature, and culture over consumption. It forces you to decide what wealth really means. A giant house, or access to ocean, family, and sunsets money can't really price. 12. Idaho, from quiet gem to hot commodity. Idaho used to be the place almost no one talked about. Then remote work, housing pressures, and lifestyle trends put it on the map. Boise and surrounding areas have grown quickly, bringing rising home prices and new development. Historically, Idaho has been relatively affordable, with lower housing and living costs. As more people arrive, the gap is shrinking, but many areas are still cheaper than big coastal metros. Outdoor lovers get mountains, rivers, skiing, and a strong sense of open space. Economically, Idaho is the real challenge is managing the transition from hidden gem to trending destination. For longtime residents, change feels fast. For newcomers, it's a chance to trade cramped city life for more space, if they're ready to adapt to Western culture and cold winters. 13. Illinois, big city gravity, big city bills. Illinois is basically Chicago plus everything else, and the financial story follows that split. Chicago pulls in jobs, culture, and high costs. Housing, taxes, and daily life can be demanding. Step outside the metro and you find much more affordable towns and small cities where budgets breathe easier. Property taxes are a big talking point, often landing heavier than people expect. At the same time, Illinois offers strong job markets in healthcare, education, logistics, and finance, especially in and around Chicago. It's a classic case of opportunity versus cost. For many, Illinois is about trade-offs, access to major city energy, good food, and culture versus the weight of taxes and housing expenses. If you're strategic about where you live, commuter towns, smaller cities, you can keep the benefits while softening the financial blow. 14. Indiana. Steady, simple, and wallet-friendly. Indiana doesn't try to be flashy. That's part of its charm and its financial advantage. Housing is generally more affordable than the national average, especially in smaller cities and towns. You don't need a massive income to afford a decent home, a car, and a bit of breathing room. Economy-wise, Indiana leans into manufacturing, logistics, and agriculture, with some growing tech and healthcare hubs. Incomes can be modest, but the cost side of life is usually modest too. Commute times are often shorter and lifestyles a bit less pressured. It's a good example of how quiet states can be powerful for long-term wealth building, lower living costs, fewer distractions, and room to invest instead of just survive. If your goal is stability over status, Indiana makes a pretty strong argument. 15. Iowa. Cornfields, calm, and long-game wealth. Iowa has a reputation for being all corn and caucuses, but for everyday life it's more about calm, stability, and community. Housing is relatively affordable and crime rates are often lower than in many big metros. That creates a strong foundation for long-term financial planning. The economy is built on agriculture, manufacturing, and services, with pockets of tech and education. You probably won't find sky-high salaries everywhere, but you also won't face sky-high rents in most places. That balance lets people save, buy homes, and build financial security with less drama. Socially, it leans towards small-town values. People show up, remember your name, and notice when you're not around. If your version of living large is having time, space, and a paid-off house instead of a high-rise view, Iowa fits the script surprisingly well. 16. Kansas, plains, practicality, and low costs. Kansas is where the financial math often works in your favor. Housing is generally inexpensive, commutes tend to be reasonable, and a slower pace keeps lifestyle pressure down. You can own a home, raise a family, and still have money left for savings or side projects. The economy leans heavily on agriculture, aviation, manufacturing, and logistics. Salaries might not mirror coastal levels, but the cost of everything from groceries to gas usually doesn't either. That simple ratio, income versus expenses, can quietly set people up very well over time. Culturally, Kansas offers small cities, college towns, and wide-open rural communities. It's less about flashy nightlife and more about steady living. For anyone tired of high-cost chaos, Kansas feels like a reset button for both lifestyle and finances. 17. Kentucky. Horses, heritage, and hidden affordability. Kentucky is famous for horses, bourbon, and bluegrass, but under that identity is a state where the cost of living is often comfortably low. Housing in many areas is surprisingly affordable, freeing up cash for savings, debt payoff, or simple pleasures. The economy mixes agriculture, manufacturing, logistics, and healthcare. Some regions struggle more than others with opportunity, but major metros and growing towns offer steady jobs. That unevenness means your experience depends heavily on where you land. Culturally, Kentucky has strong traditions: food, music, sports, and local pride. For people looking to blend affordability with character, it offers a lot of personality at a relatively low price. Just be ready for regional differences. Rural Kentucky and city Kentucky can feel like two different shows sharing the same stage. 18. Louisiana. Culture-rich, financially complicated. Louisiana has flavor, literally and figuratively. Music, food, festivals, and unique traditions make it one of the most culturally distinctive states in America. Financially, though, it can be complicated. Some areas have low housing costs but higher insurance, tax, or utility burdens. The economy leans on energy, ports, tourism, and services, which can be vulnerable to storms, global markets, and seasonal changes. Hurricanes and flooding aren't just weather events, they're financial events affecting insurance rates, repairs, and long-term planning. But for many people, the culture and community are worth the trade-offs. If you budget smartly, especially around housing and insurance, Louisiana can still offer a rich life that feels fuller than the numbers on paper. 19. Maine. Quiet coasts, not so quiet costs. Maine is the introvert's dream. Rocky coastlines, lighthouses, forests, and small communities. It feels peaceful and far away from everything, but distance has a price. Many goods cost more, winters are long, and heating bills can shock newcomers. Housing can be moderate or high depending on how close you are to the coast or popular towns. For retirees and remote workers, the lifestyle, slower pace, nature, and a strong sense of place is appealing. But incomes may trail national averages outside certain industries like healthcare or tourism. Maine is best for people who value calm over convenience and are prepared to plan carefully for seasonal costs. It won't reward reckless spending, but it will reward those who budget well and love cozy winters and coastal summers. 20. Maryland. Close to power, close to high prices. Maryland sits next to Washington, D.C., and it shows in the numbers. Incomes are often high, but so are housing costs and overall living expenses. Suburbs around D.C. and Baltimore offer strong job markets in government, healthcare, biotech, and defense, but you'll pay for that access. Property prices and rents can eat up a large chunk of income if you're not careful. On the upside, high salaries and professional opportunities can offset that for those in the right fields. Schools and healthcare are often strong, which is why many families stay despite the price tag. Maryland works best if you use the high-income potential wisely by controlling lifestyle inflation and investing instead of just matching the neighborhood's spending habits. 21st Massachusetts, brainpower and big bills. Massachusetts is where top universities, hospitals, and tech companies all collide. The result is innovation, high incomes, and famously high costs. Housing in and around Boston can feel like a financial obstacle course with steep rents and home prices. Healthcare access and education quality are excellent, but those strengths show up in the price of everything from taxes to day-to-day expenses. If you're in a high-earning field, the state can be a great platform for wealth building, as long as you don't let housing and lifestyle swallow your paycheck. For many, Massachusetts is worth it for the culture, history, and opportunity. Just understand, this is a bring a strong budget state, not a wing it and hope state. 22. Michigan, comeback story in progress. Michigan is a mix of comeback narratives and quiet stability. Cities like Detroit have gone through deep decline and reinvention, while other areas, suburbs, college towns, and lakeside communities, offer affordable, comfortable living. Housing is often significantly cheaper than on the coasts, especially outside the most in-demand areas. The auto industry still matters, but the economy also includes healthcare, education, manufacturing, and some growing tech. Winters are intense, which affects heating costs and lifestyle, but summers around the Great Lakes can feel like a totally different world. For budget-conscious people, Michigan can be a smart play. Lower housing costs, room to grow, and potential upside as cities continue to rebuild and attract new industries. 23. Minnesota. Cold weather, warm stability. Minnesota delivers strong wages, quality health care, and solid public services, wrapped inside brutally cold winters. Housing costs are moderate in many areas, especially outside the hottest neighborhoods in Minneapolis-St. Paul. The economy is diverse. Corporate headquarters, healthcare, education, and manufacturing all contribute. That mix supports relatively stable job markets and incomes. On the expense side, winter isn't just a mood, it's a line item in your budget: heat, gear, and sometimes higher auto and home costs. Minnesota suits planners, people who can handle the cold, appreciate parks and lakes, and value reliability in exchange for shoveling snow. Financially, it can be a strong base for long-term goals if you're disciplined. 24. Mississippi. Lowest costs, big contrasts. Mississippi often ranks as one of the most affordable states in the country. Housing, food, and everyday expenses can be significantly below national averages. On paper, it looks like a budget-friendly dream. The challenge is on the income side. Wages and job opportunities can lag behind, and some areas struggle with limited economic diversity. That means affordability alone doesn't automatically equal prosperity. You still need a plan for earning, saving, and possibly working remotely or in higher-paying industries. Culturally, Mississippi is rich: music, history, and strong community ties. For someone with a portable income or a remote job, the state can offer a very comfortable life at a low cost. For others, the key is balancing low expenses with realistic career options. 25. Missouri. Middle of the map, middle of the road costs. Missouri sits in the geographic middle of the country and often in the middle of cost of living charts, in a good way. Housing is generally affordable, especially outside the priciest pockets of St. Louis and Kansas City. The economy blends agriculture, healthcare, manufacturing, transportation, and services. That creates a broad base of jobs, though not always at blockbuster salary levels. The trade-off: you don't need blockbuster income to own a home, have a backyard, and still invest for the future. Missouri offers a little bit of everything: cities, small towns, rivers, and rolling countryside. Financially, it's a get ahead slowly and steadily kind of state, ideal for people who care more about stability than status. 26. Montana. Big sky, sparse everything else. Montana offers jaw-dropping scenery, mountains, plains, and wide-open skies. It also offers long drives, limited services in some areas, and rising housing costs in trendy towns. Outdoor enthusiasts love the lifestyle: hiking, fishing, skiing, but jobs can be clustered in certain industries like tourism, agriculture, and energy. Remote work has brought new money and higher home prices to some regions, sometimes outpacing local wages. Montana is perfect for those who value space, quiet, and nature over convenience. Financially, it works best if you bring income with you or work in in-demand local fields. Otherwise, the dream can feel more rugged than romantic. 27. Nebraska. Understated and financially friendly. Nebraska rarely trends, and that's partly why it works financially. Housing is often affordable, commute times are reasonable, and the overall cost of living tends to sit comfortably below national averages. The economy leans on agriculture, insurance, transportation, and a growing services sector. Income levels are moderate, but with lower expenses, families can still build wealth steadily through home ownership and consistent saving. Nebraska thrives on simplicity, community events, college sports, and practical living. It's a place where being boring with money, paying off debt, investing steadily, can quietly make you rich over time. 28. Nevada. Vegas, yes, but also real life. Nevada is famous for Las Vegas, casinos, and neon lights. Behind that image, you'll find suburbs, desert towns, and a state with no income tax but rising housing costs in key areas. The economy is heavily driven by tourism, entertainment, and hospitality, with growing tech and logistics sectors. That can mean job opportunities, but also vulnerability to economic downturns and tourism slumps. Cost of living varies. Las Vegas and Reno have become more expensive as more people move in, while smaller towns remain more affordable. Nevada is ideal for people who want a mix of excitement and low taxes, as long as they budget carefully and don't treat gambling as a retirement plan. 29. New Hampshire. Low taxes, high trade-offs. New Hampshire famously has no state income tax and no general sales tax, which sounds like a financial fairy tale. But the plot twist is property taxes, often quite high, and housing costs that reflect its desirable New England charm. The state offers safety, good schools, and natural beauty, which attracts families and retirees who can afford the upfront costs. Everyday expenses can be moderate, but home ownership is where the budget tension usually lives. For people with solid incomes or remote work, New Hampshire can be a smart move, especially if they value low taxes on earnings and purchases. Just don't ignore the property tax line when doing the math. 30. New Jersey. Comfort at a premium. New Jersey is suburban. Comfort dialed up. Good schools, access to New York and Philadelphia, and strong job markets. The price? Some of the highest property taxes in the country and elevated housing costs. Many residents enjoy solid incomes, but mortgages, taxes, and commuting costs devour a big chunk. It's easy to feel house rich, cash poor if you're not intentional with your budgeting. Still, the convenience is real. Short trips to major cities, beaches, and big employers. New Jersey is best for households that can harness the income opportunities without falling into the spend like everyone else on the block trap. 31. New Mexico. Beauty, budget. Friendlier than most. New Mexico combines desert landscapes, rich culture, and relative affordability. Housing tends to be cheaper than in many Western states, and daily costs are often manageable. The economy leans on energy, government work, tourism, and research labs. Incomes can be mixed depending on region and industry, so where you live really matters. For remote workers or retirees, the balance of low costs and scenic life can be attractive. New Mexico rewards people who appreciate art, history, and nature over big city glitz. Financially, it can work very well if you plan for healthcare, transportation, and long-term housing wisely. 32. New York. Retire rich or retire tired. New York is thrilling when you're earning. Retiring or just trying to live on a modest income, there is another story. High state and local taxes don't calm down when you do. They follow your paycheck into retirement and beyond. Housing costs are punishing in and around New York City, and even many upstate areas come with property taxes, heating, and insurance that nibble at your budget. The trade-off is access, world-class healthcare, culture, and jobs. New York rewards wealth. It's less kind to fixed or fragile incomes. To make it work, you need either a strong income, a paid-off plan, or a willingness to live smaller than the postcard version of New York life. 33. North Carolina, sweet spot of cost and opportunity. North Carolina has become a migration magnet. Cities like Raleigh, Charlotte, and Durham blend growing job markets with relatively manageable costs, at least compared to big coastal giants. Housing prices have risen with demand, but many areas are still more affordable than similar-sized metros elsewhere. The economy spans finance, tech, healthcare, universities, and manufacturing. That diversity creates opportunities for both careers and small businesses. Add in mild weather, beaches to the east, and mountains to the west, and you get a state with genuine lifestyle appeal. The challenge is staying disciplined as costs rise. You don't want your spending to grow faster than your salary just because everyone around you is upgrading. 34. North Dakota, energy, opportunity, and harsh winters. North Dakota has seen booms tied to oil and energy, bringing jobs and population spikes. Those booms also brought higher rents and costs in certain areas. Outside the boom zones, life can be more affordable but quieter. Winters are serious, cold, snowy, and long. That affects everything from heating bills to daily routines. On the upside, wages in energy and related sectors can be strong, and lower housing costs in some places can help you stack savings if you avoid lifestyle creep. North Dakota is best for people who can handle weather, value work stability in key industries, and prefer cash in the bank over constant entertainment. 35. Ohio, underrated and budget-friendly. Ohio is quietly one of the more financially accessible states. Housing costs in many cities, Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati, and smaller towns, are often far below coastal levels. That lets people own homes and invest earlier than they might elsewhere. The economy is diverse. Healthcare, education, manufacturing, logistics, and finance all play roles. Income levels are moderate but often well matched to expenses. You won't need a hedge fund salary to live comfortably, especially if you avoid overspending on cars and lifestyle. Ohio's real advantage is balance: enough city energy to keep life interesting, enough affordability to make long term financial goals realistic. 36. Oklahoma, low costs, big weather, big opportunity. Oklahoma is one of the lower cost states in the country, especially for housing. You can often get a lot of house for relatively little money, freeing up room in your budget. The economy leans on energy, agriculture, aerospace, and services. Wages can be modest, but low living costs help smooth that out. Tornadoes and storms are part of the reality, which influences insurance and preparedness costs. For people with portable income or steady local jobs, Oklahoma can be a powerful wealth building environment. The key is turning low expenses into high savings instead of just bigger trucks and bigger TVs. 37. Oregon, scenic, progressive, and pricey. Oregon offers forests, coastline, mountains, and cities like Portland with strong cultural identity. But all that charm and lifestyle appeal has driven up housing costs, especially in popular areas. The economy includes tech, timber, agriculture, and services. Wages in certain sectors are strong, but not everyone works in those industries. No sales tax is a nice perk, but rent or mortgages can still dominate the budget. Oregon is ideal if you prioritize environment, lifestyle, and values, and can either earn enough or live far enough outside city centers to keep housing under control. 38. Pennsylvania, affordable until it isn't. Pennsylvania looks retiree and family-friendly at first glance. Some areas offer low housing costs and no tax on certain retirement income. Then local property taxes and uneven healthcare access step into the picture. Costs vary widely depending on whether you're in Philadelphia's suburbs, Pittsburgh, small towns, or rural areas. Winter utilities add another layer of expense in colder regions. It's a state where doing detailed homework on neighborhoods matters more than average statistics. Financially, Pennsylvania can be great or frustrating, totally dependent on where you live and how carefully you plan around taxes and housing. 39. Rhode Island, tiny state, tight budgets. Rhode Island packs beaches, history, and charm into a small footprint. With that charm comes higher housing and tax costs than you might expect for such a tiny state. Being near Boston and New York raises the value and cost of coastal and commuter communities. The economy leans on healthcare, education, tourism, and services. Incomes can be solid, but the gap between salary and expenses isn't always generous. If you can manage housing and avoid overspending on lifestyle, Rhode Island offers a beautiful environment and strong community feeling. Just don't mistake small for cheap. 40. South Carolina, growing fast, still relatively affordable. South Carolina has become a popular move to state thanks to warm weather, beaches, and growing metros like Charleston and Greenville. Costs are rising with demand, but many areas are still more affordable than big-name coastal states. The economy includes manufacturing, ports, tourism, and services. That means job opportunities, but also a wide range in income levels. Housing costs are highly location dependent. Some spots feel like bargains, others like luxury pricing. For many, South Carolina offers a satisfying middle ground: lifestyle, weather, and costs that, if managed well, can make long-term financial security more achievable. 41. South Dakota, low taxes, quiet wealth building. South Dakota is often praised for its low taxes, including no state income tax. That alone makes it attractive for certain retirees and high earners. Cost of living in many areas is moderate and housing can be quite affordable. The economy leans on agriculture, financial services, and tourism. Winters are harsh, so heating and weather-related costs are real considerations. But with disciplined saving and investing, the combination of low taxes and manageable living costs can quietly build serious wealth. It's a great fit for people who don't need city buzz and would rather see gains in their accounts than lights outside their window. 42. Tennessee. No state income tax and a lot of charm. Tennessee blends Southern hospitality with one very attractive financial headline: no state income tax on wages. That alone has drawn retirees, professionals, and remote workers from pricier states. Housing costs have risen in hotspots like Nashville and Knoxville, but many towns remain relatively affordable. The economy includes music, healthcare, manufacturing, logistics, and tourism. That mix can provide opportunity at different income levels. Culturally, Tennessee is rich: music scenes, food, and a strong sense of local identity. If you can manage housing and avoid letting lifestyle spending balloon, Tennessee can be a powerful launchpad for financial freedom. 43. Texas. Big state, big opportunity, big bills, sometimes. Texas is huge: economy, land, personality. No state income tax is a major plus, and housing in many areas remains more affordable than coastal states. But in fast-growing metros like Austin and Dallas, prices have climbed sharply. The economy is diverse: energy, tech, healthcare, logistics, and more. That creates strong job markets. Property taxes, though, can be high and surprise newcomers. It's the classic good income, big house, big tax bill equation. Texas rewards those who plan. Pick the right city or suburb, keep housing at a sane percentage of income, and use the tax savings to invest, not just upgrade everything. 44. Utah. Family-friendly, fast-growing, rising costs. Utah is known for big families, outdoor beauty, and a booming economy. Cities like Salt Lake City have grown rapidly, pushing housing costs upward. Tech, logistics, and services have created strong job markets, often attracting young professionals. The lifestyle, mountains, national parks, active communities, is a huge draw. The trade-off is that growth can outpace affordability if you're not careful. Utah works well for planners who lock in manageable housing early and ride the wave of growth instead of getting crushed by it. 45. Vermont. Cozy, scenic, and selective. Vermont is cozy postcard living: small towns, mountains, farms, and a slower pace. But the cost of that charm can be high, especially for housing and property taxes. Incomes can lag behind those in big metros, and winters are serious, bringing heating bills along for the ride. It's a great place for people who value environment, community, and simplicity over career extremes. Financially, Vermont suits those who come prepared, with savings, remote work, or a clear plan, not those hoping to figure it out later. 46. Virginia. Military tech and middle ground costs. Virginia stretches from D.C. suburbs to beaches and mountains, and the money story changes as you move. Northern Virginia is expensive but packed with federal, defense, and tech jobs. Elsewhere in the state, housing becomes more affordable and life slows down. The economy is diverse. Government, military, tech, agriculture, shipyards, and tourism all play roles. That mix keeps opportunities flowing but also drives up prices in certain corridors. If you can balance where you live with where you work, perhaps living slightly farther out or choosing a less hyped city, Virginia can deliver strong job prospects and solid long-term financial potential. 47. Washington. Tech giants, high prices, no income tax. Washington state offers no income tax, stunning scenery, and powerhouse employers in tech and aerospace. The catch, unsurprisingly, is housing and general costs, especially around Seattle. Rent, home prices, and even everyday spending can be steep in the hottest markets. Outside those areas, life becomes more affordable but also less saturated with big-name employers. For tech workers and high earners, Washington can be a great place to leverage big salaries into serious investments, if they're disciplined enough not to spend it all on waterfront views and weekend getaways. 48. West Virginia. Natural beauty, economic crossroads. West Virginia is rich in mountains, rivers, and outdoor recreation, and still working through economic transitions as coal and heavy industry decline. Housing is often very affordable, but job opportunities can be limited in some areas. For people with remote work or portable income, West Virginia can offer low costs and beautiful surroundings. For others, the financial challenge is finding stable, well-paying employment locally. It's a state where the gap between scenic wealth and economic reality is visible, and where careful planning can turn low costs into long-term advantage. 49. Wisconsin. Lakes, cheese, and solid affordability. Wisconsin blends Midwest practicality with a love of lakes, sports, and community. Housing is often reasonably priced, especially outside the priciest pockets. Cost of living is moderate, making it easier to own a home, raise a family, and still invest for the future. The economy includes manufacturing, healthcare, education, and agriculture. Winters are cold and snowy, which affects utility and maintenance costs, but summers around the lakes can feel like a reward. Wisconsin works well for people who like balance, enough city life to keep things interesting, enough affordability to keep their budgets sane. 50. Wyoming, wide open and tax-friendly. Wyoming is big land, small population, and generous tax perks. No state income tax and generally low property taxes. That alone has attracted some high-net-worth residents and businesses. The economy leans on energy, tourism, and agriculture. Many towns are small, services can be spread out, and winters are serious. Housing costs vary. Some areas are surprisingly pricey due to demand and limited inventory, others far more affordable. Wyoming is ideal if you value privacy, open space, and a strong tax advantage. Financially, it can be a powerhouse for those who come with income or assets and want to keep more of what they earn. We are up to number 50 on our journey through every state in America. If there's one big takeaway, it's this. Where you live is a financial decision, not just a personal one. Taxes, housing, income, and lifestyle all combine to shape how far your money actually goes. If this breakdown helped you see your state, or your dream state, a little differently, don't just click away. Like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to rethink their zip code and their money strategy, and let me know in the comments. Which state surprised you the most, and where would you actually move if money wasn't holding you back?